This is a very important story. The important story. In the midst of COVID-19, it's an historic opportunity to look at the facts of the world as it is, and then to focus on the solutions to some of our greatest problems. In the 75 years since the United Nations was founded, the human race has never had to face a set of challenges like we do right now. But together, we can overcome them.
So you're saying that an international health organization could just end the First Amendment in the United States?
Yes, and in fact, as much as this sounds, I know that it sounds preposterous, but
it does not sound preposterous.
The ability to do it is currently under discussion at the international level. And it's almost impossible to exaggerate how troubling what is being discussed is. In fact, I think it is fair to say that we are in the middle of a coup, that we are actually facing the elimination of our national and our personal sovereignty.
The World Health Organization is moving forward to revise international health regulations in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Some member states are expressing concern over provisions of the zero-draft WHO Convention Agreement. Critics say the proposed agreement would give the WHO authority over health care, trade, and other aspects of our lives.
Well, a warm welcome to this talk, and I'm very pleased to welcome James Roguski. So we're talking about the WHO Treaty, the International Health Regulation. What is in a nutshell, James, your main concern here?
My main concern is that they're negotiating under fraudulent premise. And so people think, oh, well, I'm going to speak to my representative in Parliament or in Congress, and they're going to be able to do something about it. But way back in 1948, certainly in the United States, the balance of power or the checks and balances between the legislative branch and the executive branch got shifted. And so what people don't understand is the amendments that were adopted last year are not like a treaty. They're amendments to an existing agreement, and there will be no signature needed. There will be no vote in Parliament or Congress or the Senate. The structure of how this operates is it is assumed that you're okay with what your delegate agreed to unless you proactively reject them under Article 61 in the IHR.
Well, joining us to explain more is Reggie Littlejohn. Hi, Reggie. Before we discuss how this ties into U.S. law, what would approval of this zero-draft agreement mean for people worldwide?
You correctly characterized the zero draft as an agreement. That's what they're calling it. They don't want to call it a treaty because they are deliberately trying to subvert the United States and the other countries' treaty processes. So if it's an agreement, all it takes is a signature. It does not take going through our Senate. So people say, oh, don't worry about it. It will never pass our Senate. Well, they are deliberately subverting our Senate process.
Signatories must recognize, quote, the central role of the WHO as a directing and coordinating authority on international health work. What do you believe that means?
Well, it means that the WHO is able to call the shots if there's any health emergency or potential health emergency anywhere in the world. And the language that says that they have to have the permission of the country is stricken so that they can do it without the permission of the country. And it's not only about human health. They have something called One Health, which means that they can do it on behalf of human health, animal health, plant health, the environment. They can use any reason that they want to be able to come in and basically run the show in terms of addressing that health issue.
And I've read the zero draft proposal. It gives the WHO authority over the global supply chain, trade, commerce, through establishment of the WHO Global Pandemic Supply Chain and Logistics Network.
The pandemic treaty must be viewed in coordination with the changes, proposed amendments to the international health regulations. As George Santanea said, that those who fail to learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat them, and I do have some severe worries that the lessons of the last pandemic have not been learned by the WHO themselves, and we are in danger of giving them more powers to enable them to overreach themselves and repeat those same catastrophic mistakes again. We're bringing in an idea called One Health, and this then extends the ability of the Director General of the WHO to call a public health emergency of international concern, which incidentally is abbreviated to FAKE. So, and it says that he can bring it in on the suspicion, the risk of an international incident. It doesn't even have to be about a pathogen that's affecting humans. It can affect animals. He's taking the powers because of the environment, or an increase in the levels of CO2. I suggest that honourable and right honourable members read the treaty. It's just a massive extension of powers, and at the drop of a hat, one man, Mr. Tedros, can call for massive powers to the WHO.
The attempted power grab described by Bachmann involves the World Health Organization, or WHO. Through a series of 307 amendments and a global pandemic treaty, the WHO seeks to gain authority over health decisions of UN member nations that could affect the rest of the world in the case of something like another COVID pandemic.
Then they would be empowered to tell us in America, we have to lock down. We have to shut down. We have to close our churches. We have to close our schools. We're mandated to take a vaccine, whether we want to or not. We're forced to mask. We're forced to whatever it is that they tell us that we have to do. We have never before in history, in 5,000 years of recorded human history, we've never seen this level of authority given to an international global body.
Those supporting this authority for the WHO, such as top advisor Dr. Abdullah Asiri.
The world, however, requires a different level of legal mandates, such as the pandemic treaty, to navigate through a particular pandemic, should one occur, and it will.
Well, I want to warn you about a new push from the UN for a new form of global influence. The UN wants to control information. They want more global action to restrict information. Have a listen to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
Digital platforms are being misused to subvert science and spread disinformation and hate to billions of people. This clear and present global threat demands clear and coordinated global action. Our policy brief on information integrity on digital platforms puts forward a framework for a concerned international response.
Yeah, what could go wrong, hey? A concerted international response from the United Nations against what it calls misinformation. Now, we all oppose hate speech and we all oppose lies, but do you want the United Nations deciding what is fact and what is fiction on global warming or on wealth redistribution or on transgender issues?
The pandemic treaty would give them the right to declare infodemics. We're going to define that later. That just means that they can say this information is dangerous, we're going to shut it down. We have the global authority to do that. But right now they can't do that. They want to. So the information is hurting them that they can't control. You see what I'm saying here? So here are reports that the WHO head, Dr. Tedros, is very worried about the lack of progress on the pandemic treaty, which he blames on, quote, a torrent of fake news, lies, and conspiracy theories, or maybe actual information about the pandemic treaty itself, because we've laid out how worrying it is, because we cannot let this out of our sight.
But the UN is the chief concern, of course. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Although there's a WHO treaty coming to a country near you,